if someone's in a broken relationship right now, maybe they've been arguing for years or fighting, they don't, maybe they have good weeks and then there's a bad week and it's this cycle of good and bad, up and down, and it just feels like it's draining or exhausting. What can they do to start healing the relationship, to start healing individually and the relationship to create harmony in the future?
Beautiful.
What are those steps?
Okay, so first thing is, if it's an abusive relationship, then obviously just it's safe. That's priority, as we all know. But let's say that it's not an abusive, you just got in some bad habits.
Both of you are doing bad habits. Both of you are trying to fix the other person. Both of you are...
But you're still together because there's love.
Yes.
There's a desire to be together. So if it's that, so that's the scenario. Okay. So the first thing to do is to get into some good practices that will help calm your neurophysiology down. So I call that brain preparation.
You kind of your nervous system, or
calming the entire neurophysiology. So that when your mind, you've got a calm, wise mind that's always active and always on your side. Then we have our messy mind that's in the relationship. It's in the moment. It's the in the moment messy mind.
the reactive
Learning. It's very normal. It's like experimental, and it sometimes goes really messy, and other times it kind of gets it right and whatever. So it needs a lot of guidance, and that's our wired for love nature, is our wise mind. So the first thing is that when we're in that messy mind state, that's sending all this messy energy through the brain, and it's triggering all kinds of,
toxic thoughts.
Just think of an argument when you start, some stupid thing gets you going, and then you end up arguing. What am I even arguing about?
What's the point in the first place?
Exactly. Or why did I even bring that stupid thing up? We resolved that years ago. Why am I bringing that up now? That's what will happen if you don't calm down on neurophysiology. So it's get your neurophysiology calm first, and you can do that with meditation, breathing, with exercise, gym workout, with creating space that, okay, we're both too hot now. Let's
Get
just
some fresh air. Yeah.
Get some fresh air. Let's resolve this at a later. Let's create mental, physical space. Just there's so many ways of doing that. There's so many great sort of meditative breathing.
Yes.
Find something that works for you. It may not be the same thing. Mac and I like to just create space, and I like to do a 3-7 breathing thing that gets my neurophysiology under control. So you breathe in for 3 and out for 7. So and if you do that 7 times, you'll feel high. But it's great because you push so much oxygen to the front of your brain. And it's a very good way of calming down your neurophysiology. You can do that in 10 seconds. I call it a 10-second pause. You can do it for 60 to 90 seconds. So it's 10 seconds that you do 6 to 9 times. Great little formula for calming down neurophysiology.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
That's a fail-safe we always use. Really good fail-safe. Like, we are a family-run business. All of us are involved. It's very easy to argue with family. So when we all get hit up, which we do because we're all very Italian, we do a 10-second pause, and we will go out the room, grab a cup of coffee, and then come back and reconvene. Those simple things that I know we know, but are we doing them? Or are you trying to push through? I've got to solve this now. I used to be like that at the bed. We've got to fix this now. And so I had to learn to, hey, no, you don't have to fix it now, because you
take a
cannot
pause
fix.
and
Okay, so that's first thing.
You can't. Is it possible to fix something when you're in chaotic thoughts?
You can, but it's more difficult, and you have to, it's just going to be confusing and, messy and harder and not very sustainable, and it's not a very peaceful way of doing it.
It's exhausting,
I wouldn't do it that way. Then the next thing that's very practical is you can focus on good stuff. So it may just be good stuff about yourself. So you can, part of mental health is not just detoxing stuff. It's also building healthy stuff. So I love talking to you. We have great conversations. Every time I talk to you, I always have great memories of our conversations. So if I want to get myself into a good state, I can recall a good moment, like maybe a conversation with you. I love my research. We just published a paper, and I look at those results and I get like high, literally. So get yourself, that's just 2 silly examples, but they're very powerful. So if you've now calmed down your neurophysiology, and you now go and focus on something that makes you feel great, that means you're pulling this up. When you pull this up, amazing things happen in your brain. You change all the delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma frequencies. You calm down. Think of the waves of the sea. You want, they build, they're deep and big, and then they build on the beach, crash, make little waves, go back. We want that kind of energy going through our brain, which activates good neurochemical flow, the endocrine, all that stuff, immune system. So by the brain prep that I explained, the breathing, whatever, and then you have put yourself into a really good brain state. Mind, brain, body state, not just brain state, but you've got a very good flow happening. Now, you're still as irritated as hell, still would like to go and do something physical, like, whatever. I'm just joking, but I mean, you might be want to throw a plate at the wall, or you still, I'm so mad about what. It's okay. It's okay to be messy. So third thing, tell yourself it's okay to be a mess. It's okay. I can be a mess. It's okay for us. It's normal. But how am I going to manage the mess? So give yourself permission to be the mess. Feel the mess. Analyze the mess. I'm frustrated. What's my emotion? What's my body feeling? What's my perspective in this moment? What am I doing? So you go through, it's okay to be a mess, and do a little mini neurocycle. Go through, why am I feeling like this? Write a few things down. Do a recheck. Okay, this has happened. What can I do? Action. Okay, I'm ready to talk. See what I've just done?
Yeah.
So step 1 is brain prep. Step 2 is think of something good. This has activated our natural resilience. We are not fragile. We are resilient. We are much more resilient than we realize. But if we take on the current zeitgeist that we break and it almost wrecked us for life, we're going to become fragile, which we're not. We're going to mask our natural resilience. We are pretty amazing as humans. Look at the stories of people surviving and getting through stuff. And then we need to draw on that. We need to unmask our resilience. So these steps, the brain prep, focusing on something about yourself, and then you could also add up to this, not just focusing on your own good stuff. You could think of something great about your partner. You could think, whatever. Think of a great memory, which is a really good addition. And that people hear before, but, I'm sure you've heard that before, but it's doing this great stuff in your brain. Then do it in your cycle on yourself. You can do this in 3 minutes, in 10 minutes, in an hour, whatever.
Wow.
Then reconvene and say, okay, now we're going to do this as a neurocycle. I have a whole relationship podcast where I went through in detail of how to actually, what to say, guidelines of what to say at each step. And I mean, we can talk about some of those.
Right. I'm curious. I love all this. And the thing that came up for me is, what happens if we want love, we want to be in a relationship, we want connection, we want intimacy, but we don't believe we're deserving of love? What will happen then?
Such a great question. And it just reminds me, as you're talking, you're just prompting all these clinical experiences I've had. Very successful, incredible person, and one of those people that could get anything in their life, okay, and just wonderful in every single way. Thank you. And just could not keep a relationship going. We start off well and everything, and at the end of the day, the core issue, once this person had worked through, was that they didn't deserve love. And it came, unfortunately, a lot of it comes from childhood.
Really?
And it's not everything, because you can have a great childhood and really trust in love, and then go into a really bad first marriage or first relationship.
How does
and
that
a person can break you. And
really?
I can give you an example of
So it could be you could have a great childhood, great parents, great model of love.
Total.
But you get into a relationship, you fully trust and accept and love someone.
Because that's what you've seen. You throw everything.
And so you expect they're going to do the same for you, and then it doesn't go your way.
Exactly.
And then you don't, and then that could potentially set you up to think, I'm not deserving of love.
Yes, especially if it happens in your adolescent years. 12 to 18 is the most difficult part of the entire human life cycle. So, and that's where we are interested in forming our relationships. That's where romantic relationships are what we desire. Up until then, it's more friendship-based. It could be earlier, 10, 11. You can have little boyfriend, girlfriend things, but it's more just community, connection, deep friendship, something starting. But those years are, and you're at that age, your relationship with your friends and potential partners are not more important, but are more important than your parenting.
Wow.
They supersede.
In terms of relationships,
in terms of the formation of who I am.
Wow.
So at that stage, that's, so you can have this great foundation. And then you
amazing parents, no trauma.
Yeah.
Fun all the time, peace, harmony, and home.
Sorted it out, did the real thing, just great parents. They had their own messed up lives, but took responsibility, said sorry, did all that stuff.
Right.
And then you get into a relationship where someone who's broken is attracted to you, and you're attracted to them, and you swept off your feet either way, and their brokenness is put onto you in your informative years, and you get told you're not good enough.
Oh, what happens when we believe
what's wrong
that?
with you? And at that stage where you are so like you forming yourself, you're forming your choice to identity in terms of others, relationships, me in the world, in terms of that drive for love. So if you're told you're never going to get a relationship.
Or you get rejected, or you get dumped, or you get cheated on as a teen. How does someone overcome that feeling of I'm not deserving of love?
So that is a hard one. So to start, all of it's hard.
Yeah.
But is to find the source. So what you very often is as an adult, and it's very often in the 20s and 30s where you start doing this work, and it can happen. I'm not saying always, I'm not generalizing, but very often, because that's when you kind of get through school and whatever you do, and you get into the workspace and you start actually really forming deeper relationships, and then you start getting to the point where you're thinking, okay, well, why my friends are getting married? You know, that everyone around me is in relationships and I'm the only one who's not in a relationship. I can't seem to keep a relationship. What's wrong with me? That's when you start seeing those signals, patterns. That's when you need to sit down and do the work over 63 days and multiple cycles of 63 days. And then you'll get to the point where you'll see, okay, what is the root? The root was either a childhood issue or an adolescent issue. Maybe it was you were the new kid in town and everyone laughed at you because you wore glasses, and they just, said you never, what you were mocked. So you were too scared to actually show that guy or that girl that you like them. And you were too scared because you were so quiet, or whatever. And that was the source of there's so many reasons. There was I can tell a story of someone else who was one of 4 kids, and it was the only girl, 3 boys. Kind of almost like seemingly perfect home. I mean, there's never any perfect whatever.
Right.
But kind of got it more or less okay.
Yes.
Bit of religious stuff going on there, but still. But the boys were very sporty and very, and the father just, like always was totally sporty. So it was like a big deal. But this was not a sporty little girl. But to get the father's recognition, this little girl had to be like one of the boys. Also, she thought. And so purposefully, like almost made herself mirror, put the hat on backwards and baggy clothes, and didn't want to tomboy. Didn't want to feminize and that kind of stuff, and didn't want to, not that there's anything wrong with that, but her objective was not a healthy one. It was trying to fit in, to be accepted. And her perception, once we got to the root, was, well, I was never accepted, but never accepted by I thought that I had to be like a boy for my father to love me. And that was a huge thing. But it was so interesting. What really triggered that, this kid was about 5 or 6, already doing this, already reading the room and thinking this was the answer. And they were sitting, and some stranger came up. They were sitting at some restaurant, and this kid was dressed up like one of the boys. And someone said, "Oh, what a cute little boy!" And that broke her, because it was confirmation that she's not good enough as a female. That even outside people are saying, "Oh, I accept you because you're a cute little boy."
Wow.
So that led to years of self-abuse, self-hurt, sexual promiscuity.
Isn't it crazy that
broken marriages?
Yeah. Isn't it crazy that one thing we hear from a friend, a sibling, a parent, an outsider, a schoolmate, a teacher, it could stick with us for decades, forever.
Now imagine, Lewis, if that person could have, and this is what triggered me to write the current book that I have on children, with all these stories that I can tell. That person, I remember saying to me, if only I had known how to say to my parents, am I only loved if I'm a boy? I feel sad because you don't seem to love me unless I'm like a boy. Or that man made me sad because that man made me say, I've got to be a boy. Or, Daddy, do you love me even though I'm a girl? That child didn't know how to say that, didn't have the language, didn't have the tools. So what I'm trying to create, and we know that the mental health situation is for a multitude of reasons. We're not individualistic society, social media, AI. I mean, our generation's facing our problems. Every generation faces their issues. Every generation thinks what we worse than the previous one. Right. No, we're not. We're just facing our unique problems. Yes. What we need in this generation with our kids, so that they have decent relationships, and it starts with having a decent relationship with themselves, is we have to have a way of them being able to process and express their feelings. So that 5-year-old needs to be able to say, hey, I feel sad, or have a point of contact, something. So you can teach a child as young as 2 how to do this, Lewis. My youngest patients in my practice were 2 and 3 years of age, and you can teach them how to identify their signals, detox, and to make it really easy. That's what I've done in the latest book, this one, How to Help Your Child Clean Up Their Mental Mess. But we created this character. I actually created this character 25 years ago. I had a Disney artist create this character, and we had it all updated. So the book, if you flip through, you'll see there's multiple images of Brainy. This is a character we've created called Brainy. Brainy goes through all these different scenarios, and it's how you understand how you can teach a child as young as 2 that these trees in the brain, and how you can change your brain, and and how to express and identify your signals. All these hard things that we battle with as adults, you can teach children very basically as a child. So we created a toy. So for example, let's say you have a 2-year-old who is sitting at, let's take a 5 or 6-year-old, and they're at school, daycare, or whatever, at kindergarten, and someone constantly comes up and knocks their toy tower over that they're building, and then next day pulls their hair on the playground. There's a series of teasing going on. And that child most likely has, and I'm talking of another clinical case, has been abused at home by terrible physical abuse, but it's taking it out on the most vulnerable person in the playground. Then that child comes home and takes it out on the most vulnerable person in the family, which is the younger brother, who's maybe 2 or 3 years of age. And so now we see a perfect home environment with all the love and dealing with all the issues and blah. But this child's now starting to bully the younger child, and quite badly, so that there's this terrible sibling rivalry.
Where does bullying come from? Like, why do most people start to bully other kids?
It's a coping mechanism from abuse.
Really?
So it's
Could be verbal or emotional or sexual or physical abuse?
Yes. So it's coming from any level of 8, 9, 10 traumas. If you think of a scale of 1 to 10, 8, 9, 10 would be your extreme traumas. And persistent bullying that's breaking a person down would fall under that category. Any kind of abuse would fall under that sort of category. So when bullying is one behavior in amongst those 4 signals I keep talking about, that is energy that's built up, that's self-hatred. And self-hatred, therefore, is now blasting out. And they're repeating a pattern. So bully has been bullied. And so it's a persistent pattern that goes through generations.
They don't know how to process their emotions in a healthy way. So this is how they get it out.
Exactly. That's how they're getting it out.
So bully has been abused in some way.
Yes, and they've been bullied or have been bullied or are being bullied. And so they're just taking it out. So you can't treat the bully by punishing the bully. You've got to actually help resolve why the bully's doing the bullying in the first place. And so you'd start with a child in your home that's bullying the little brother and find out, okay, well, let's now, and this is key. You need to make a person feel validated, because you need to say to that child, whether or an adult, this is not who you are. These behaviors that I'm seeing that are impacting us, the rest of the family, yourself, your friends, or whatever, this is not who you are. I know that, because I know you are. I know who you are. I love you. So in other words, you divorce the behavior from the person. And that's really critical to create that safe space. So look, I'm going to help you work through this. This is no judgment, but let's talk about this. Let's talk about how you can't hurt your brother or your sister or whatever. But at the same time, I recognize that this is not who you are. So you're doing this for a reason. So you've got to stop hurting, and we're going to put boundaries in place for that. But I'm also going to help you understand what's going on, and you're going to help me understand. Wow. And then you take them through a process of a neurocycle. You have a contact point. So I've created things like toys, coloring books, that character, that if a child is not able to verbalize, which they're not until they're old enough to have the language, and even then they don't have the words often. But if you have a key contact point or a point in your house where, like you have a sitting room and you watch TV and that's your place of relaxation, you need a mind management place in your home. You've got a gym, you've got a whatever. You need a mind management center in your home, which could be a beautiful little couch or a little beanbag and next to a pretty plant, something that you as a family create and choose, and
you
everyone,
feel safe.
Adults, say,
yeah.
Whenever you go there's no judgment, there's only safety. And if someone's sitting there, they're needing support. So creating that environment and then having, like a toy like this, a young child, it's often easier to say, oh, shame, Brainy was bullied today and he's so sad. And, so I see that Brainy's angry. And so you transfer that over to the toy, then the child can enact and carry it out and show you what's happening. And then it divorces it from them directly, and it enables them to try and enact that without feeling threatened or scared or externalizing. And you can also model for yourself, oh, Mommy feels sad today and this happened. And so you model and you actually walk through the 5 steps without saying them, but you do that and you model. So that allows them to have the space. Oh, Mommy also sometimes gets mad, or Dad also sometimes gets mad, or Uncle also. But you in that space. Now that idea of creating a mind management space, or a neurocycle space, whatever you want, or a brainy space, whatever you want to call it, and I've got these examples in the book, came from a study done in Zimbabwe years ago, where I was actually born, called bench therapy. And it was a granny on a bench in a tribe, in a country that has no money for current modern mental health, and actually has better mental health than any westernized country, because our current model doesn't make things better, it actually makes things worse, and the science is there to prove that. And all that this granny did, Lewis, was sit on a bench to create a safe space for people to listen. So Lewis, literally, that wires in a toxic thought into the brain. And I know your audience has seen these trees when I did spoke
Let's
at your
see it there. I love
conference
it.
or whatever. So that is in your brain, and that toxic event or whatever that you're getting sucked into.
Can you explain it? What's in the brain?
Absolutely. So this does whatever we tell it to do.